theticketfm.org.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bakovic.
Yes, it is nice to be with you here live on 93.7 The Ticket for Nuclear Heat. We usually bring the show to you around 9 o'clock on Sundays, but a little bit of an opening here, so we figured we would jump in and talk some pro wrestling with you. Hopefully you are excited because it is SummerSlam, and SummerSlam is going on currently as we speak. Somebody is climbing up the ladder to try to get to the belt at the top. I believe that is Tommaso Ciampa, but it's too early in the match. He's going to get knocked off. So, well, he actually is now hanging, dangling from the belt. So, pretty good spot coming here, and that's what you can expect from that match that they have going on. So, we'll talk all about SummerSlam from night one and talk about what's kind of going on live. Though we cannot do play-by-play. That at least is true for sports. I'm not sure if it factors into professional wrestling, which is obviously predetermined. But man, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do it live because Champ is like going all the way. He's finally got a ladder to help him out there, but he was like doing almost pulling himself up with that. So very entertaining stuff as you expect from that ladder match. Augie, welcome in. Augie Pena, my Nuclear Heat contributor, our Nuclear Heat contributor and my tag team partner. How's it going? How did you enjoy the wrestling from SummerSlam, one of the biggest events of the year?
Yeah, it's been fun. I think night one was pretty entertaining. Aside from the match that I've kind of been complaining about for a couple weeks now. But yeah, I thought they did a pretty solid job. It's cool to see them turn it into kind of like the WrestleMania of the summer, right? Like that's always interesting. And I mean, some of these matches have really most of these matches have really lived up to the hype.
Yeah, it's been fun. I think I'm actually kind of interested in your thoughts on night one and night two. So as we kind of look at the card, I thought night one was loaded with great matches. Now you said other than the one match with Jelly Roll you weren't looking forward to. I would throw Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross in there for me. But I think between night one and night one feels like the more stacked card. Night two certainly has the main event of the entire thing with John Cena, who's now kind of turned into a good guy, maybe face John Cena if you believe it, at least for a night, versus Cody Rhodes. So we'll kind of see what happens there. Very entertaining stuff, I think, on our way, but we'll mostly recap last night. Again, I will be once in a while I will be distracted because it looks like Bo Dallas is in the ring, which he's not necessarily supposed to be a part of this match, but not surprised that he would get in there for the Wyatt Six, who is defending the tag team titles. That's one thing that I kind of forgot going in. When I looked at the 6-man or 6-team tag match, I was thinking, wait, which one of these teams is champions again? Because everybody seems to have had their turn. Right now, the Wyatt Six have it. So we can get to that in a little bit. But we do want to start off. We don't want to bury the lead with the most exciting part of last night, the main event. And we'll get to some of the other stuff as we move on. But Gunther versus CM Punk. This, of course, for the top belt. Gunther and CM Punk. A great match, I thought, as far as kind of really laying it in there. CM Punk, as you can imagine, Gunther gives some of the toughest chops out there in the business. He started to get red on his chest throughout this, but it ultimately boiled down to Gunther has a real-life, legitimate nose injury.
Yep.
And it was was unknown going into this match, so they used that to say it got busted open. They did a table spot. He was able to get underneath the table for a minute while they zoomed in on CM Punk and maybe get some of the red out. And so he kind of covered his face in that. So as we're supposed to be told, right? Yeah. The blood is gushing all over his face. He couldn't really see. He couldn't gather himself. CM Punk was able to hit 2 GTSs to get the win. And CM Punk, of course, has been fighting back since he got back in the WWE to claim the top prize. Here he gets it in the main event of SummerSlam. and then we can kind of get to the next chapter. But as far as the Gunther CM Punk match, how did you enjoy that?
I thought it was fun. The only thing is there were leaks about his injury kind of a day before, so that kind of may have ruined it, just with the day and age of social media. But I thought it was a lot of fun. It's kind of what it lived up to be. They've been teasing this for almost a year, right? I not a year, but close to it, because last year they teased it a lot, and these two did a really good job. And I mean, just seeing CM Punk there holding that belt, winning, it just filled with emotions. It was just a great moment, a great 30 seconds he got to have there, and all that, and
5 minutes.
Yeah, but I thought it was a great, good main event, and then of course, they make it better.
Well, yeah, that's at least the Rollins fans will say. There's plenty of people online that said they ruined it because Rollins comes in. But as we know, Seth Rollins had an injury not too long ago, a knee injury where his knee buckled in a Premium Live match against LA Knight. And so everybody was kind of wondering, okay, well, he's got the money in the bank. They did a good job. Paul Heyman says we got till June to cash this thing in on their programming. They kept Seth Rollins off of TV for the longest time. He comes out with crutches because his whole thing was he was going to deny CM Punk from being world champion. And so he was basically saying, hey, I'm going to come after you. Turns around, starts getting back, going to the back. And then the crutches dropped and the knee brace drops, and out he comes ready to cash in his money in the bank. And he used the briefcase a few times, quite viciously against CM Punk, more than we often see. And then was able to get the stomp for the win, and Seth Rollins is now the champion. CM Punk, again, officially champion for just over 5 minutes. So a lot of different ways you can look at that. Again, a lot of wrestling fans just like to cheer for the good guy. They got their good guy moment with CM Punk winning, and then Seth Rollins came in and ruined it for some people they would believe anyways. But for you as the fan, is this is the booking you might have went with?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was kind of predictable. I think, there were some leaks and rumors going around that it was all a work, because they kept us in suspense with it, right, for a while. But yeah, I thought it was great. I'd say it's top 5 in cash in moments again. Just like you said, came out in the crutches, kind of really worked it. And then the only thing for me, we kind of talked about this off air, is CM Punk, had about 20 minutes to run out of that ring, by the time Seth did everything. So that's something that I think is funny. But yeah, no, it adds to it, because it just adds another layer to the story, right? Like, CM Punk did become champ. Even though it was 5 minutes, he still got that, a belt. These two have had a rivalry for 10 years, real life, in ring. And kind of karma coming around full circle, because WrestleMania, CM Punk caused Drew McIntyre his championship that he beat Seth Rollins with and was cashed in. Now this, so it's a lot of fun things, and they can run this storyline for another 6 months, and then hey, here comes WrestleMania season, and we got our main event.
Yeah, they definitely could. I could see CM Punk and Seth Rollins getting to that spot. Like you said, it's interesting because they didn't have to do a whole lot of anything. As soon as CM Punk came back into the company, there was natural heat, and again, there was yelling. Seth Rollins was mad when Punk made his appearance. How much of that was, real? How much of that was for the show of it? We'll never possibly know. And now it's even harder to trust what we do and don't know, right? With Seth Rollins' injury, seemed to be legitimate, at least as far as like booking went, because it was like there was no reason for Seth Rollins, after building this character and creating this new faction that he had, to lose the first thing out of the gate to LA Knight. And of course, with the injury, they also did a good job, I think, of, Seth being the wrestler that he is, finishing out the match, taking the final hit there from at the time, LA Knight. And so, yeah, it's been a good debate over the last couple weeks among WWE fans. Adam Carricker would say he predicted this as well, because he says that's not how you injure your knee. So there's different ways to look at it, but so it was almost a predictable surprise to a degree, but a fun, predictable surprise that we didn't know for sure if it was going to happen.
Yeah, and it kept us talking about it. It gave us stuff to talk about, and I know the wrestling community, and that's what you want. And I'll just fight back. I know I'm never pushing back on Adam Carricker, but I've seen people like tear their ACL just walking up and down the stairs, things like that. So, something like that happening. But yeah, got to give props to LA Knight too, because his reaction when Seth got injured, seem legitimate. He seemed that he was upset, but I mean, this is what we've been asking for. I think in terms of storyline, with Seth and this group that he has that still doesn't really have a name. Now he's got the belt again, which he carried. He was the first one to hold that belt when it came back, and carried it for a good while here. So now we'll see, with CM Punk, kind of everything they do there. But I'll just say I truly enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. You didn't know how it was going to end, and now they're showing a lot of the backstage stuff. So you saw Becky Lynch's reaction. She was back there. All that stuff. She said something like, "Oh, did I mislead you guys with my post?" Because I think she posted like him on crutches walking their daughter. So everybody thought it was legitimately injured. And yeah, and then they've showed her reaction, and she's like, "Yeah, I got you guys." So I think that's a lot of fun.
I'm glad you brought up LA Knight, because that is quite a news that he probably was given to him. This could be the biggest win of your career. Finally, looks like maybe a push if we just give it to you and then say, well. But here's the thing. It's all for an angle for Seth Rollins, and it's really going to have nothing to do with you. So that's kind of interesting there. Of course, they could have went a different route. They mentioned throughout this that Gunther has only lost 4 times in 5 years in WWE or whatever it is since his time that he's been there. Now I think you're starting to get to the point where you can count them. And once you get there, then you get in trouble. Then losses start coming your way. So it's interesting, because I thought if they were going to do it, maybe you protect Gunther, not necessarily losing one-on-one in this case with a cash-in. But I think the nose injury certainly kind of played into that. But again, too, I mean, I think would the story be bigger if Seth didn't steal the championship from CM Punk, but stole it before he had won it? Because his goal was to win one.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to hear about how he, wants to be the guy that carries the belt in the company and all that. But I thought that was maybe that was the only thing that maybe I would tweak about, is maybe have the cash in when Gunther's down. CM Punk obviously is going to win, and then Rollins takes it.
Yeah, I agree. That probably would have made it a better storyline moment, right? Because then CM Punk could say he never won it, like I said. Now he was a champ for about 5 minutes, so mission accomplished, I guess, there, in a sense. But yeah, that'd have been fun. But they wanted the shock value. CM Punk got to celebrate for what, like 30 seconds to a minute. Everybody just kind of waited to see and then when that music hit, you're like, oh, great. Here we go with this. So I thought they did a pretty good job. They're doing a really good job of closing out these night one main events of these two night things that are going on. Let's hope that night 2 can kind of have an ending like that too, that lets us, talk about it a little bit more.
It's got to be better than WrestleMania. We'll just put it that way. We'll
it
see
has
how
to
it goes. It almost has to. So we'll kind of see what it looks like there. But yeah, very interesting stuff. That was kind of the big takeaway from night 1 the other night. Again, Gunther now with this legitimate nose surgery needed. Probably better for him to go away off TV for a while when he comes back and come back, the monster that he is, rather than have to explain away why he had just taken a loss. So that could be kind of interesting. And obviously Rollins and CM Punk will be feuding, like you said, probably for much of the next half of the year. All right, let's get into some of the other stuff that went on from last night. First of all, Cardi B opened up. She appeared to be reading off a card on the edge. So I don't imagine she's the biggest wrestling fan, though she let us know she's a fan of Randy Orton. It's been a long time that Cardi B had been promoted. I think they had a deal maybe like last year's SummerSlam or something like that, and it never really kind of came through. So as much promotion, or I guess as long as it took to get here, there wasn't a whole lot with the Cardi B stuff. I mean, she had her own entrance and all that, but so I was kind of surprised by that, but that's fine. Then we get to Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and I had seen it too online. Who would have thought years ago that Jey Uso might get a bigger reaction than Roman Reigns at SummerSlam in a few years? And you could argue that again with the crowd reaction, though. I still think there might be more phones out when Roman Reigns comes out to take pictures of him and all that. So they went up against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. This was honestly part of what kind of set you up with the Rollins stuff too. Is part of his teammates take a loss here to Reigns and Uso. So that was kind of interesting. Ultimately, like I said, Reigns and Uso gets the win. The story here is that Reigns sacrificed himself, took a spear from Breaker, and allowed Uso to maintain his health and ultimately get the win. Few other thoughts that I kind of would have here. They're continuing Jey Uso redoing his opening during the match, which I think is unique to him and interesting for a character, and that's how over the opening is. But it's almost like maybe you're overdoing it a little bit. And then the other thing that I thought was pretty funny is if you saw the previous time these two teams got together, Bronson Reed had taken Roman Reigns' shoes and he was wearing them like a trophy coming in here. So that's kind of the highlights of the match here, but a good way, I think, to get people of SummerSlam excited there, the live crowd with Reigns and Uso getting the win.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. It was a great opener. I thought, with that, Roman still, like you said, gets probably one of the biggest pops of the company, but Jay, we talk about it as much as I don't like the whole yeet thing and everything. That entrance is fun. He goes in through the crowd. He gets them all going. So it's something they can all do on there. But I thought, it was some good storytelling within the match. Like you said, that big sacrifice he took on that huge spear. That was a big spear from Bronson. That would have broken Jey Uso. That was a lot better of a spear than the spear he used
Jey Uso,
to pin Bronson Reed. He needs to retire that spear there. We kind of talked about that, but I thought it was fun. I laughed when Bronson Reed came out with the Jays Roman Reigns shoes. I was like, oh, that's a nice touch to it there. The only thing I'll really say about this one is and I know it set it up, but I talked about this last week. I didn't really like the outcome all that much. I thought, the other team needed it. But I get it. The good guys got the win. Roman Reigns kind of needs to still stay hot, relevant. But to me, I figure that's maybe why Jey Uso was here, because he's over with the crowd. He can kind of take pins and still be in the main event scene, which we've seen for like 2 years now. In there. So I thought he could take it. But your guy, Bronson Reed, took it. And I didn't think that was the right call.
Yeah, and I think you're right too about highlighting that spear. If not for retiring it, at least don't do it right after Braun Breaker's spear and try to argue it's like within the same league. So that would be one thing they could have worked on there. But I think part of it is Breaker and Reed obviously rebound just as easy, as much as anybody with their own loss. They don't have to worry about it with Seth Rollins now holding the top belt. I'll be interested to see what's kind of next for their characters, but I think they kind of go back to being more henchmen than the tag team, maybe that they were becoming without Seth Rollins. We'll see. It's interesting because they were kind of pushing Braun Breaker a little bit there without Seth Rollins too. Do we just kind of go, completely off of that, or what's kind of next? What's kind of next there is interesting, and it's just great to have Roman Reigns obviously back in the WWE. He took the time off basically from WrestleMania to SummerSlam, and so I'm interested to see kind of what's next with his character too. Is that enough revenge against Paul Heyman? Maybe it's tough to tell in wrestling circles.
Yeah, I don't think so, because Seth has a championship again. They're going to throw Roman Reigns in there. I just really hope for WrestleMania it doesn't turn out to be another triple threat, between CM Punk and Roman. Just give him let him do the one-on-one battles with it. But I think that's kind of maybe where we go from here.
Yeah, I think it's been lined up that would be the first two that would be knocking on the door. So I think we're in for some entertaining fights here coming ahead. Real quick, because we did put live reaction in the title. They are now setting up the Intercontinental Championship between Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. The tag team champs, so far night 2, the champions have stayed the champions. The tag team champions, Wyatt Six, used to look like some interference. Like I said, as we're talking during the show, I can't completely watch what's going on, but they used some interference from Uncle Howdy to help retain that championships in the tables, ladders, and chairs match. And Naomi defeated Rhea and Io Sky. I know you were kind of traveling over here during that match to a degree. What did you kind of think about the Naomi, Rhea, and Io Sky? They put this as the opener for a reason. Io Sky and Rhea have done magic every time they've gotten to a ring, and Naomi usually pretty darn good herself.
Yeah, I actually got to watch it because it's not that long of a drive for me. Luckily there. So, but I thought it was a good opener. The ending though, Naomi retained. That's fine. You can keep going with that. Now you kind of have the question of what do Rhea do? But the thing that got me is Rhea was complaining that she grabbed the tights, and then they're saying it's a triple threat, it's non-disqualification. They need to kind of clear those up a little bit more for us fans there. But I thought it was a great match. All three of them can really deliver. I thought it was fun. Naomi's dad did her entrance. I didn't know he was a world-renowned guitarist there. they're just blessed, people that are already famous, they get all that stuff too. But I thought it was good, but I'm just very curious to see what they do now. Because she grabbed the tights, is it going to be Rhea versus Naomi? Does Io still get, an opportunity because she's never faced her one-on-one? So that'll be something I look forward to.
Yeah, and they've really, they went back to this, the Io and Rhea, quite a bit here recently. So it almost made the champion the fresh part of it, right? Naomi's got so I'm interested to see, maybe you move off that, try to get something going with those characters. Again, sometimes these premium live events, especially SummerSlam, WrestleMania, are supposed to be the end of stories. Sometimes they just are kind of in the middle there and move along, as we're kind of seeing with Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. I don't think that's ever going to stop. But no, maybe they'll put an end to that tonight. One thing that did look like it was done, we're going to skip a match just to real quickly get our thoughts here on Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross. At the conclusion of this match, I think the best part was Sami looking at Karrion and then saying this is over, and Karrion agreeing. Because I don't know how this made it to SummerSlam. For what it's worth, fine match between the two. Again, it's never been anything about the competitors. It's always the storylines. And here we are again, Karrion Kross with the biggest maybe opportunity or booking opportunity in his career. How much was it deserved as far as story writing and all that stuff goes? It's hard to say, but the crowd, for what it was worth, seemed to be embracing him because he's at least to see him on the main card and up here for this, SummerSlam moment. So he kind of got more cheers than boos, it looked like. But, this was all about the steel pipe and seeing if you can turn Sami Zayn into a bad guy, basically, kind of what they did with Cody. Kind of like a Cody Jr. type of story over here with Sami Zayn, with Karrion Kross being the bad guy that's trying to tempt him. And Scarlett was very much trying to get Sami Zayn to use the lead pipe. Instead, he chose not to. Went ahead and won the good guy way with his finisher, the haluva kick. I don't know. We've talked about this match in booking forward and backwards with it. Was there anything about this that made it redeemable to you to put it here?
No, Sammy Hogan. Why? This is another matchup, another rivalry. Sammy didn't need to win. He's just so over as the underdog character. This is somebody in Karrion Kross. We talked about it. I think this essentially just buries him because unless they just do a full reversal and the next he actually wins a feud, because nobody needed to win a feud more than he did, and it didn't happen. And the whole stipulation of the match that if one won, one would say they were right. If one were wrong, they would say. I was like, you didn't need to put that in there. That is like, we know, it's implied. It's a I was wrong, you were wrong, type of thing. I'm like, that just makes me not want to watch it even more. But like you said, it was fine. And believe it or not, I find myself rooting for Karrion Kross more and more, and maybe that's the point. They want us to, and then eventually it'll be like a Dom Mysterio, everybody was cheering for him, but he lost. And then, hey, he wins a belt. You could do that for Karrion. It just, man, you don't, you didn't need to sacrifice him to Sami Zayn essentially like this. And I swear, if tomorrow night comes around and they have an interaction again, I'm going to turn off my TV and I'm going to not watch the rest of Raw because I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not playing with it, WWE. I'm done.
Yeah, that is enough of this feud. Make it end. All right, we're going to take a quick break again. Right now, SummerSlam Night 2 is going on. Lyra Valkyria slamming Becky Lynch into a pole right now. So we'll go ahead and take a quick break. We'll get maybe some live reaction to that, as well as talk about the rest of Night 1 from SummerSlam there in WWE. This is Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be right back.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
From the capital to castles, starting this December, fly nonstop from Lincoln to Orlando with service from Breeze Airways. That's right, nonstop flights to Orlando out of LNK are starting this December. You're now just a flight away from Disney World, Universal Studios, Legoland, and the Space Coast. Stretch out and relax on Breeze with complimentary family seating. Book your magical getaway now at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
I'm Karen Carr. I've been a realtor for 31 years. When I made a company change 12 years ago, I chose Lincoln First Realty, now NP Dodge. It's the oldest independently owned realty company in the country. Since becoming NP Dodge, we've continued our tradition of community involvement. Our management and staff are always available to offer support in marketing, technology, social media, and educational opportunities.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion, for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Nebco is hiring CDL drivers for ready-mixed concrete in Lincoln. With 3 plants across the city, there are plenty of opportunities to start or grow your driving career. They offer great pay, medical and retirement benefits, paid time off, and they cover the cost of CDL training. Apply today and receive a $2,500 hiring bonus. Since 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today with ready-mixed concrete. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Saturday. Eagle Raceway is open for a full season of dirt track racing action every Saturday night. Don't miss the epic battles on the high banks of Eagle Raceway each Saturday between the Nebraska Septic Sprint Cars, Nebraska Lottery Modifieds, Avid Realty Sport Mods, Valentino's Hobby Stocks, and A1 Iron Stock Cars. Let's go racing. Eagle Raceway, just 10 miles east of Lincoln on O Street. Check out the full schedule at eagleraceway.com.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with Taco Night on Mondays or Whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake. Nebraska football opens their season on Thursday, August 28th in Kansas City, and you can be a part of the best pregame tailgate party with Blur Events, live from Kauffman Stadium, home of the Royals. Doors open 4 hours before kickoff with a live DJ promoting interactive competitions and giveaways, tailgate games like cornhole, flip cup, and beer pong, access to ballpark concessions, and available air conditioning. Book your tickets today at blurevents.com/Kansas City and hang with 93.7 The Ticket on the scene prior to Nebraska versus Cincinnati on August 28th. Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstorats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Back to 6 p.m. in Lincoln with Chris Kalarvik. Sponsored by the Teammates Mentoring Program on 93.7
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service, bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 488-8934, and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Doren. God bless you.
Prashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. Yes, a little bit early for you this week, but we did want to jump ahead and talk about night one of SummerSlam. Also, night two of SummerSlam going on as we speak, so we're kind of live reacting to that as we go on. Right now, the Intercontinental Championship on the women's side between Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch. And Becky is brought out of just about everything she could find under the ring, including a toolbox, and even used, what was that, a wrench?
Yeah, a wrench.
Lyra with, and Lyra's still kicking out. So.
That's ridiculous. That's kind of where it gets a little bit, and I know this is all make believe, use your imagination, but we talked about the way they push Lyra, and they must just love her because you get hit with the toolbox to the head, you get hit with the wrench to the head. I mean, come on, you got to make it somewhat believable at some point, and she just kicked out of him, and I don't know what's going on here, but she's tied up,
Right now, she's tied to the ring post, and Becky's using a kendo stick to hit her like a baseball bat. So if she does come out in the Intercontinental Championship, I'll at least say she's earned it today. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, she might go down as one of the best hardcore wrestlers of all time if she can win this match.
Hey, ditch the bird.
That's right.
Go with the hardcore Lyra. I would be okay with that, because we talked about that. Get rid of that bird. Whatever she's doing. Did she come out on the bird? I think
the bird lady. Yeah,
yeah, she's got the feathers and all that. She did. But hey, they could go with that. But this is fun. This is fun, but a little borderline ridiculous on that too.
A little bit, and we'll see. I mean, the whole storyline seemed to be set up for, if I had to predict it, that Lyra would win.
Yeah.
So we'll see. She's really going to be fighting through here, and who knows? I mean, Bayley's still going to be around the corner, I'm sure, for whoever does win this thing. As Becky's lining up some chairs, so it's about to get a little bit more brutal. Let's get into it. Some of our reactions still from night one, the Judgment Day. Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez took on Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Interesting. They're still kind of telling the story of Bliss and Flair not quite being on the same page, but not quite being friends. But what are they? Almost leaning into it a little too much, I would almost say. But again, that's part of the story that they're telling. And I think it's working. I mean, Charlotte Flair, if you remember, before this whole angle, for maybe the first time in her career, seemed to just kind of lack some buzz to her. And now, Alexa Bliss has kind of turned that so where Charlotte Flair is getting a positive crowd reaction. This matchup was done pretty well, where Bliss accidentally hit Flair in the match. She was going after one of the Judgment Day members, and that Judgment Day member moved, and so she hit Flair. And then so later on in the match, Bliss had a chance to get Sister Abigail for the win, but Flair was reacting, and the camera shot was beautiful behind it, where you could see, okay, Flair's upset. Who's she going after? And starts to head towards Bliss, but ends up hitting the other Judgment. I don't remember which Judgment Day member it was that she was going after. But anyways, it allowed for Bliss to get the win. And Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss are now tag team champions. Next question is, how long do these two stay together?
Man, I would like them to. It's fun. It's fun to watch this. This is a different Charlotte Flair than we've ever seen. I think this is a great pairing. But I have a feeling with just the way kind of the Judgment Day storyline is being set up, for Liv's return and everything, I don't think they're going to hold those titles for too long. And then we're going to see the split of the team.
But that is the opposite question, is what does it mean for Judgment Day? Does it mean bad things for Dom coming up? We did see the men's side hold off and win their defense here against LWO on Monday Night Raw. So not everybody's gonna, not everybody's gonna lose their belt, I should say, out of Judgment Day. But we'll see. And a lot of that, of course, has to be, when Liv returns, when she's ready, because they got to set that up for a lot of dissension among the group when she does.
Yeah, they have to there. And with the going back to the Charlotte and Alexa Bliss thing, I think next Premium Live event they probably drop them. That's just what they do on that. But yeah, you're correct. I was surprised. I didn't think this would be the Judgment Day team to drop it. I know they were building up Alexa and Charlotte, but they lost at the last Evolution. So I was like, oh, maybe they got it there. But yeah, we'll have to see, because the big storyline, like you said, is Liv coming back. She's still got like 4 or 5 months, I think, of being on the shelf. And I mean, Roxanne Perez is the one that took the pin there. So, that kind of doesn't help her case about staying in the Judgment Day and being essentially Liv's replacement.
Yeah, we'll see. It's always like, I love Judgment Day drama. So it's one of my favorite part of wrestling the last couple of years. They are able to fight through it usually. We'll see if they can get through that again. And like I said, it's interesting. Flair, I remember, teamed with Asuka once and won the championship. And that lasted about a week. So, with kind of single stars that could do it as single stars, how long do they hold on to the belts? How much, maybe they can kind of bring the belts up, maybe have some other single stars tag together to face them. I think you could have some interesting and entertaining times ahead. And like you're kind of saying too, I want to explore more of Charlotte Flair outside of, it's funny because they're champions, outside of singles championship glory, because I think we're seeing that a little bit with one of the former Judgment Day members, Damian Priest, where, I mean, for the longest time when he left Judgment Day, it was like, okay, this is still working. But it was always with the championship coming involved. Now we're seeing him go, kind of, and to each their own. Maybe people are picking up, maybe not, but he was not on SummerSlam's card. He was fighting Aleister Black there on SmackDown. And I don't know, he just feels a little bit lost. And sometimes when the single stars are constantly around the championship picture, when they're not, how do you kind of find and build that's where you find and build your character. And so it's weird to say this late into the game for Charlotte Flair that she could, I don't want to say find it, but just deviate a little bit from the simple, like, I'm Flair, I'm a Flair, I'm a champion, everybody else is under me type of look.
Yeah, and when you team her with somebody like Alexa Bliss, who was gone for almost 2 years and is a top diva as well, or sorry, they're not divas anymore, but a top woman on that side, that really helps. So she was booed out of every arena when she first came back, and so it is fun to see that. And like I said, I know you said it's a little bit overplayed, but what they're doing, I think it's working. It's getting everybody to kind of pop for her. Like I said, to see Charlotte smiling and to be able to mess around there is really good for her. And that's why I'm a little nervous for if this doesn't last long and then they go into just a feud. It's like all that hard work is just going to go right back down.
Yeah, I that's what I'm almost hoping, just for the Judgment Day sake, because I think they would be interesting and entertaining to hold this belt. That they didn't just throw it away for something they're going to break up right away. So I think there's some mileage on the Alexa Bliss Charlotte Flair pairing still to be done, and maybe even in merchandise sales, which is what WWE cares about quite a bit. So maybe that will kind of help out there as well. Let's move on to a few more matches here from night 2. We've got about 20 minutes still to talk. Tiffany Stratton against Jade Cargill. And this is definitely a matchup of the now and the future, right? I mean, these are two of the brightest young women in wrestling today. And Tiffany Stratton has been on an absolute roll, 13-0 entering the match last night for the year, 14-0 after she hits the prettiest moonsault ever to get the win. I wouldn't say that they necessarily, this was a matchup that could have been one that you had thought, okay, would they pull out anything necessarily too special for this? It wasn't. It's just, two good-looking athletic women fighting this pretty standard match. But I thought it went over one. We've talked about it though as well. Jade Cargill and her growth in the ring. I don't think there was anything like glaring or big issue about it, but maybe that's why it more kind of fit into the kind of the standard match that you would see. Not to say that it wasn't entertaining and fun. It just, they didn't pull out a whole lot of stops for it.
Yeah, and I think that you nailed it there. It's just kind of Jade's, what she's able to do, what she's limited to in the ring. we've seen Tiffany can do, a whole bunch of stuff like that. The prettiest moonsault. I mean, that's still one of the greatest moves to see, one of the greatest finishers. I've seen a lot of people kind of torn 50-50 that Jade didn't win, but I'm just because she's just still so green, has to do a little bit more in the ring. I'm fine with Tiffany now, retaining and going on from there. And I mean, you've built a legitimate champion in her, because this is something we've talked about, for about a year and a half now. We wanted Jade versus Tiffany, got part one. Maybe they'll run it back, and maybe Jade will get better in the ring by then, and then they can pull out some special moves.
Yeah, she's still, just looks fantastic.
Yes.
In just about everything that she has done and can do. So I mean, again, very bright future for her. We'll see what's kind of next there. But for Tiffany Stratton, the longest reigning champion now in WWE. So you kind of go from the rookie with the cash in, kind of big surprise and all that, to being the longest reigning champion pretty quickly in the WWE sometimes, with how they can swap the belts from time to time. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. By the time we get back, Lyra and Becky could be over. This might go for match of the night. They're doing a lot of weapon spots here, and they just continue with it. So very entertaining stuff. We might be able to react to that, but we'll definitely be able to react to Augie's favorite match of the night with Jelly Roll involved. Going next year on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Unearth the secret to long-lasting tires at Tread's Central Tire Pros, a league apart in commitment, service, and expertise. This isn't just about rubber meeting the road, but trust, safety, and surety converging in perfect harmony. This is where expectations are exceeded every time. Make your appointment today at Tread Central Tire Pros, just south of Cortland on Highway 77, or visit our website to explore our services. Remember, when it comes to tires, choose Tread Central Tire Pros, because we tread differently.
A1 Automotive's second location is now open at 5110 State Hill Drive, just off of Yankee Hill Road. The new location continues to specialize in all makes and models and provides personalized service as they have for 15 years. To honor the new store opening, A1 is offering $25 off any service over $300, $50 off services over $500, and $75 off services that total over $750, all through July 31st. Schedule your appointment today at A1AutoLincoln.com and visit their new location in South Lincoln at 5110 State Hill Drive.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription, or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Mike, I've been thinking our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And it's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
Midwest Bank is now hiring in Lincoln. They have multiple banking positions open and are looking for dynamic individuals passionate about helping others and building relationships. With a family-friendly culture, competitive benefits, and unique perks, Midwest Bank is a great place to start a new career. Apply today at midwest.bank. Midwest Bank is an equal opportunity employer, member FDIC.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. And the Bailey Lyra Valkyria, well, I said Bailey because Bailey got involved. The Lyra Valkyria matchup here has just come to a finish. You probably saw it just a second before I did. Becky actually gets the win after just a heck of a match. Bailey did get involved there toward the end. Probably didn't need to. You and I kind of talking during it. Her and Lyra Valkyria, Becky, that is, were putting on a classic as far as using as many weapons as they can and as many weapon spots as they can. Bailey gets involved. There's been talk about Bailey. Is she going to turn? Is she not? She had an opportunity to there. She did not, and instead started going after Becky. But Becky able to outlast and get the victory here. Any thoughts other than what I covered there?
Man, no, you hit it on. That is so disappointing. I mean, when you see Bailey get involved, you think, that's how Lyra is going to win. And then they swerve us and, Bailey ends up hitting her and retains. So now Lyra can't challenge for that Intercontinental Championship while Becky's there. So it looks like it's going to be a Bailey-Becky feud probably going forward here. Great, but I don't know, just a little confusing. But hey, we were just talking about how they keep pushing Lyra so that they gave her a loss here. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, it is interesting. I like I said, I'm a little bit surprised by this because it seemed like the story was headed toward, toward Lyra Valkyria finally getting her kind of redemption in her win here. That didn't happen. So, like you said, now she can maybe at least focus on something other than the Intercontinental Championship. I think will help kind of freshen things up with her. But she had a long feud with Becky. I think it's a memorable one. When you talk about going in there and being able to get the rub from one of the best to ever do it in the business. And like you said, now maybe two of the original four horsewomen will do battle here. And so it could be interesting, though I'm not entirely convinced, again, that this is the end because you definitely have an argument on Lyra's behalf to go after Bailey now or, saying that she interfered with the match. So we'll see. I'm not sure that's the end of the story, but it's certainly an interesting one. And they put on a heck of a show. Speaking of heck of a show, how about Jelly Roll going out there last night? Jelly Roll and Randy Orton going up against Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. This was an entertaining bout in the fact that Logan Paul, I thought, had a lot of entertaining kind of moves that he did there, including one from the onto the announcer's table where he held up his drink or splashed them kind of together, then went for a frog splash of sorts onto Jelly Roll, onto the table. This was too much for Jelly Roll. I mean, he just couldn't get, so they were kind of taking him to the back. He decided he wasn't going to leave Randy Orton hanging there, going 2-on-1, though. So he got back in there eventually, but it was not going to be enough. So Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre end up beating Jelly Roll and Randy Orton. I know you weren't looking forward to this match, but they had some entertaining spots in it. Was that enough to kind of redeem it a little bit for you?
Not really. I just wasn't a fan of this one. I thought and as it proved, Jelly Roll wasn't needed for this. They could have somehow turned this into a triple threat. I understood, the celebrity of Jelly Roll kind of doing all that stuff, but yeah, it just wasn't. This is one. Let my dogs out, kind of did that, and then I watched, highlights. I rewatched it again today, things like that, and I was just like, yeah, this is. Jelly Roll has a great voice, that the way he introduced Randy Orton got the fans going. I thought, great, I might listen to some of his music, but and props, he's lost like 300 pounds or something like that, they announced. So good for him to get in shape for this moment. But you didn't need him in this moment, I thought. And it clearly showed on, was it SmackDown, Raw, wherever they did their interaction. And then obviously last night in SummerSlam.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's always part of wrestling is the celebrity appearances, and celebrities like to get in as they're showing Jelly Roll on the screen now.
Yep.
So apparently he's not too banged up from the match last night. But I mean, other than Morgan Wallen, maybe that was one of the top names in music right now.
Yeah.
So I'm sure at least they got what they wanted to. Logan Paul, is always kind of bringing in celebrities and people that he knows. So I thought that at least they made the right decision and don't have them lose to Jelly Roll, who the one part I don't love. I mean, you're selling his choke slam and stuff like that. It's like, man, choke slams are for like Kane and the Big Show. I mean, you can't have Jelly Roll having a devastating choke slam, but that's for his moment and all that. So the good news is it's over for you. The bad news is I think what I've heard is that he's interested in some more appearances maybe down the line.
Yeah, they need to calm that down. They need to see if he can even go a match. Because like you said, it looked like he would. I know storyline wise, but they were playing off of that. Maybe this was too much for him and whatnot. And he didn't do horrible. I'll say that. I've seen worse, performances in the ring. It just wasn't something I was entertained with. And for people there. It doesn't have to do with I didn't know who he is. Like, I like Travis Scott's music sometimes. I hated the fact that they involved Travis Scott in a lot of those moments. I'm like, never bring him back. Things like that. So it just, I had no interest in it.
Yeah.
It had 3 great wrestlers and it just didn't live up to the moment.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I'm glad they went the route of not allowing someone from the outside to come in and get a win.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they do that. But with Randy Orton on his side, I figured an RKO out of nowhere would have finished this up with somebody there. And then the other side, if Drew McIntyre rarely wins anything on the big scale. And so I figured we'd finish with a Drew McIntyre maybe getting pinned here. Or Logan Paul could have taken, but they get the win. So props to WWE, I think, for making at least the right decision there and protecting their stars to a degree. So as we look forward now, we know from night 2, again, Naomi defeated Rio and Io Sky. The Wyatt Six retained the tag championships. Becky Lynch now has retained her championships. Does Jacob Fatu continue it with it now? They've got the steel cage match for the U.S. titles against Solo Sikoa. 3 for 3 with the championships defended so far tonight.
I think so. I think that's the way it would.
Solo Sikoa.
No, yeah, it's Solo. Sorry, you had me a little confused there. No, actually, on this one, I'll go the other way, and I think Jacob Fatu is going to break that in there. But yeah, that's very interesting that they go. The first couple of championships were retained there.
Yeah, a little bit surprised to see that. Of course, there was some championships exchanged, at least in as far as a few times Seth Rollins and CM Punk getting it there. We mentioned Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair so far. So those are the ones to look forward to. Just a few minutes left here. We've also got Dom and AJ Styles in the Intercontinental Championship later tonight. What do you got? You feel heavily one way or the other there?
I don't want his reign to end, but this really feels like they've set it up for that. Unless the Judgment Day really gets involved and helps AJ, or it's the other way around. It backfires, and their interference costs him, and then we start to see a little bit more of the split there. But for some reason, I'm predicting AJ Styles is going to take the title away from Dom.
And we're getting a little bit further away from the AJ Styles connection with another member of Judgment Day there in Finn Balor. Maybe he could factor in. Maybe we've seen obviously spots there where he's trying to help Dom and ultimately it cost him. So we could see some maybe that also enter into the Judgment Day by the time we get there on Monday. Of course, the WWE Championship, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Who wins, and is John Cena the good guy here to stay?
Man, this one is this one. I'm glad we're doing our show at this time so we can be watching it. But yeah, I think Cody Rhodes is going to retain that one or take it. But I think there's a lot that's going to be happening. I think The Rock makes an appearance.
Ooh.
And I think Cody Rhodes turns heel. I think that's what ends up happening, because although people say John Cena's babyface turn is a work, I still think this is how you want it to go. You want him to be back on the good graces, and you want him to maybe not chase the championship anymore, but be able to open up for more feuds without having that title around it.
Interesting stuff. Of course, it is a street fight, so that means that people can get involved from the outside. I believe, like you said, it's hard to follow the rules and restrictions of all these matches that they might call something different. But at least in my mind, that would have mean you're not going to have too many disqualifications in there. So, I mean, this is, and I'll say this, just for unpredictability, just for excitement, the John Cena that we know and love returning, it kind of takes away from the heel turn
Yeah.
altogether. I don't think it was as successful. Like the night the heel turn happened, we're all thinking this is the biggest heel turn of all time. They didn't do it for 20 years with John Cena. Here it comes. If that is the end of it, I don't think it was. I don't know if they completely capitalized off of it. Maybe could have went a different route with some of his past characters, or found something to do, get him out of those jorts and have a different look or something. But either way, I think that was vital to the importance and the excitement. I think to this matchup is to bring in the original John Cena character.
Yeah, that intro. I mean, it's finally going to come back. One of the big things too, real quick from SmackDown, he said the two people that were supposed to have my back, Travis Scott, The Rock, weren't there anymore. I mean, he dissed Travis Scott again. I'm really hoping Travis Scott doesn't come back into this, but I really think this is where The Rock finally comes in and it flips it all. But yes, I mean, John Cena's entrance right now, it's just his name. He's quite, now it's going to be, at least for tonight, unless it's a swerve, it'll be the time is now, and that the real entrance that we've all been wanting to see in his return here.
Absolutely. I do think that'll make it more of the kind of the big match feel that we have there. But you are right. Something I didn't think about is maybe they're swerving us with the whole Travis Scott doesn't agree with WWE anymore, and he gets the biggest moment of SummerSlam like he did for
I would be so mad. I would be so upset. I would be going home. I'd be going to bed just thinking about that. I probably wouldn't sleep tonight. I'd be a little bit upset.
That'll wrap it up for Nuclear Heat. Stay tuned to next week. We'll talk more about these matches we didn't get to. The finish line coming next year on 93.7 Ticket.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week,